Welcome to the Encore Effect, the podcast where music takes center stage in life's second act. Brought to you by Encore Creativity, America's largest choral organization for adults 55 and older. This inspiring series celebrates the transformative power of music, community, and creativity in the later years of life. Each episode will share moving personal stories from encore singers across the country and dive into fascinating conversations with experts in neuroscience, gerontology, and the arts. Discover how choral singing is boosting brain health, improving well-being, and lighting up the lives of thousands of older adults nationwide. From retirees finding their voice for the first time, to the science behind why doctors are prescribing music for the mind, the Encore Effect proves that creativity is endless. Join us and let the music move you.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Encore Effect. Thank you so much for joining us for another exciting episode talking about all the good and wonderful things happening with Encore Creativity, the nation's largest choral organization for those 55 and older. Not just for 55 and older, but the largest choral organization in the country. And we have exciting conversations every single week about what's happening in the organization, but also what's happening out in the field of creative aging. And today I'm so excited to speak to one of our singers, coordinators, board member, chair of our marketing committee, and my friend, Chuck Jarrell. Chuck grew up in southern West Virginia and is a 10th generation Virginian-West Virginian. He earned degrees in Aerospace engineering and business administration from West Virginia University, and later earned a PhD in business administration. Chuck spent much of his career in sales and marketing and worked in varied industries, including the chemical, portrait photography, direct mail and printing, medical, and computer and electronic technology industries. He currently teaches at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona, where he's also the faculty chair of marketing. Chuck helped organize the Encore Chorale Phoenix in 2024 and serves as its coordinator and is now an Encore National Board member. He's an elder at Horizon Church in Phoenix, where he's led mission trips to Mexico, Honduras, and Turkey. He's the stated clerk for Hope Presbytery, which is made up of 11 churches in Arizona that are affiliated with the ECO, a covenant order of evangelical Presbyterian churches. In his spare time, Chuck enjoys family history research, astronomy, travel, and sports. He has 3 adult children and 6 wonderful grandchildren. Welcome to the podcast, Chuck. I'm so glad you've joined me.
Thank you so much, Joshua. It's great to be here.
So I'm excited to talk to you because you are a little bit different than some of our guests in that you don't have a whole lot of musical experience, and music wasn't a part of your life from a choral standpoint and from a singing standpoint. So tell us, it's a fun story, how you even came to know who Encore was.
Yes, it is a fun story, and I'll tell you how I discovered Encore, and then I'll go back and share with you my little bit of musical background. 3 years ago, a friend of mine and I were traveling, and we flew to Vienna, and we got on board one of the river cruises and started back up the Danube, and I saw all these people walking around with Encore on their T-shirts. And it's kind of like, okay, what's Encore? And so we sat and had dinner with some of the folks and learned a little bit about Encore. And there were 40 Encore singers on board. And they rehearsed in the ship's lounge, and they actually did a concert for us one night on the ship. And of course, they got off at several of the ports of call and sung in the local churches. And I was just intrigued with it. Actually had a chance to have dinner with Catherine Harsha, who was the music director for that trip. And I came back to Phoenix basically saying, wow, what a neat organization. And we could do that in Phoenix too. So the first thing I did is I know a couple of people who know music a lot better than I do, and I reached out to them here locally. Yana Minoff is our music director now, and I've known Yana for 10 years. She was the music director at our church. And I talked to her and I said, would you be interested in exploring this? And she said, yes. And so that's when we contacted you, Joshua, and basically said, hey, how can we bring a chorale here to Phoenix? And so we did. And we started out with a core group of seven people from the church who had a choral background, plus Yana, and also Olga, who was our pianist. She's our accompanist. And from that, we've grown to serve in the 2 years that we've been doing this. We've served over 30 singers. Of course, like a lot of the chorales, some of those singers come and go for a variety of reasons. But this past season, we had, I believe, 20, 24, 25 that signed up and 19 that participated in our concert. So we're growing and enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, and we're just getting started in Phoenix. We're talking about so many exciting ideas and how to bring choral music, across the city. And it's because of your excitement and passion and leadership and that of Yana that's helping it make it happen. Every one of our ensembles start with a different origin story. And I think this might be one of the most fun ones that you were on the cruise, just enjoying life, and you heard members of our ensembles singing in glorious places, and you said, I've got to bring that back to my city, and you've made it happen. And you talked a little bit about kind of just the core group that got it started. There was connection to the church, but what are some other things that you could share that you did in bringing Encore to a new city like Phoenix? What were some of the things that you had to consider in helping, bring us to a new market?
Sure. And our church, our venue is in the very south part of Phoenix. So we're not ideally located in the middle of the market by any means, but we are in an area of the city where we have a large number of retirees and people who are 55 plus. And it was really just trying to find ways to reach out to them through the churches, other churches that were in the area, civic organizations. We have a YMCA right down the street from us that has a program for older adults that they run called YOPUS. And so part of it has just been reaching out through those organizations, plus some advertising that's been supported. Joshua, thank you very much, out of the national office that's helped us to really get started and get a foothold here. And now, as you say, we're looking at other parts of the valley. The Phoenix metro area is about 4.5 million people, and it stretches from east to west about 50 miles and from north to south about 40. So lots of room to grow in a market that continues to grow in population and is a favored spot for a lot of people when they retire.
I talk about Phoenix all the time just because there's just such wonderful people in your ensemble, and of course you and Yana. But there's a little bit of envy because your ensemble has like almost equal tenors and basses and altos and sopranos, which never really happens in choirs. So you've got a great balance of all the parts in your group, and you have some really amazing male identifying singers who are part of your choir.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yes, we actually had 10 that actually sing the bass and tenor part, and we have this concert season. We actually were able to add about three to our sopranos because our sopranos, believe it or not, was actually the weakest group going into this.
Wow. You
So.
never hear that. So you have lots of, most of the singers that are in your ensemble are new to Encore within the last year and a half. What are they saying to you about Encore? What have you heard from them that this choir is bringing to their life that might have been missing prior to a year and a half ago?
Well, of course, everybody has their individual story, but I'll just tell you a couple. And I didn't realize this until just a few weeks ago. I was talking to one of our singers. Her name is Denise. She actually drives almost 50 miles one way every week for rehearsal. She lives down south of us, down past Maricopa, and she is just thrilled. I mean, she's been with us since the first season that we've been here. She's just thrilled, and she just raves about Encore and what it means to her. I mean, it's giving her a sense of community purpose. She's a good singer, but like all of us, can continue to learn. So she is one example. Another example, we have two women, Helen and Jane, who will be on the Danube trip later this summer, by the way.
Oh, nice.
And they are neighbors. They live in the general area, and they are neighbors. And Jane is a really good singer. She's got a wonderful ear as well as a wonderful voice. And Jane actually, this has revived her spirit, I guess is the best way to say it. She really enjoys what we're doing, and she comes with a smile on her face every week to rehearsal and all. So again, everybody's got the individual story, but I think it's it's health building. It is learning, building. And now we're starting to get to the phase where it's community building because some of the singers are going out after rehearsal and just socializing together, which is really neat.
I love that. And Chuck, your life is so full. You are very involved in your church. You've got a still very demanding job as a faculty chair. You have all these hobbies like family research and astronomy and travel and sports. What is choral singing and what is music bringing to your life that is different than maybe everything else that you got going on?
Well, so I have to reach back into my musical history just a bit to tell you that part of the story because it's helped me to remember my childhood. I grew up in the church, and we did have a very large adult choir. And when I became a teenager, I joined our youth choir. And for 4 years, I was part of a youth choir that had 25 to 30 uh, kids in it. And we had very professional um, music director, high quality training. And of course, it was all church type music. And so, but that's been my only real experience with choral music down through the years. But I love music of all different types. And I have to tell you this little sidebar story. When I was in the sixth or seventh grade, my aunt, I had an Aunt B. Everybody should have an Aunt.
Can't be.
Yes, everybody should have an Aunt B. My Aunt B, it was my father's sister. She said to me, she said, "I'm going to join a record club. If you may not be old enough, Joshua, to remember the record clubs."
I was not part of one, no.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, Columbia Records, RCA Records, there's one other, had record clubs. And the way it worked was you would subscribe and they would send you a record every month, and you could actually pick from a list of records. These were all 78s, meaning big format records. And my aunt said to me, "I'll buy you a record every month, but we have to talk about it first, and you have to agree that it's going to be good music." And so I said, "Okay, we'll do that." Well, that introduced me to jazz, Miles Davis, for example. That introduced me to orchestral music, Montevani, and some of the, leading recording artists of that time. And I did talk my aunt into letting me get Meet the Beatles when the Beatles came out. That was the first Beatles album. So so again, I've got that in my background, but I had not done choral music down through the years simply because of work and other commitments. And so part of this has been a real learning experience for me. I know the basics of music. I cannot really read music all that well. Yeah, I learn by listening as much as anything. And I think this is a kind of a key thing for a lot of our singers and would-be singers. If you've got a good ear and a reasonably good voice, you can learn the parts. You can learn them. And repetition, like everything else, is important. I mean, if you play golf, it's all about hitting that ball over and over and over again. And music is the same way. You've got to do it. You've just got to continue to do it until you get it right. And of course, for many of us, we fake it until we can make it. So.
I love it. And I just learned something I didn't know because we've never had that conversation that you sang in your youth choir and you did sing in a choir. And so your story is very similar to so many of our singers who sang in high school or college and then put it aside for many, many years because of work and family and other priorities, and then now getting to pick it up in their encore many, many, many years later. So that's so cool, Chuck. I didn't know that, and I'm glad to hear that. So you just kind of shared some core memories. That's also the power of music is that, and when we think about music and dementias or music and brain health, there's the part of our brain that recognizes music is the last part of our brain that goes. And so there's so many core memories that are locked into music. And you just shared one. You talked about, the record club and getting to learn music and all, there's so much. I can hear you get so excited talking about that. But is there another moment in your life, a kind of core memory, that the power of music was transformative in your life, whether it was something that was happening with your family or work or just something that resonates with you?
Well, you already mentioned I'm an elder in the church, and I do go to our national meetings of ECO, which ECO is a relatively new Presbyterian denomination, started in 2012. And the power of calling on God and calling on the Holy Spirit when you get 1,500 people in a big conference center or a very large church, and many of them know how to sing, yes, that's quite moving. And you really do feel the presence of a higher being, whether you want to call it God or what. So that would be probably in my current experience what I would attribute to my connection with music.
I love that. So, some of our kind of core pillars, it's part of our mission statement, is lifelong learning, wellness, and fun. You kind of mentioned that earlier, and that's all being a part of the Encore musical community. So, in the lifelong learning piece of this, you are a learner, you are a professor, you're learning, a little bit more about music, but what are you learning about yourself? And what are you learning about this stage of life for you, Chuck, by being a part of Encore?
Yeah, in this I'll tell you what I'm learning, but I'll also say this is really kind of a message to anybody who's listening to this podcast. Um, you just have to continue on with the learning. It's nice to be able to go out and teach college classes, and I learn every time I go into the classroom. It's wonderful to go to rehearsal for encore and learn something new about music that I did not know, or something that I will reflect on and think, back in that youth choir, they told me this, but I had totally forgotten it. And so I think that's what keeps the brain active and really thinking about it. And of course, the music itself. Yeah, one of the songs that we sang this past season is you put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. That's a wonderful message, and I think a lot of the music that we sing at Encore has messages that can be applied to people's lives to help keep them healthy, keep them growing, keep them learning.
I love that. So, how do you think society's view of older adults and their capabilities and their creativity still need to change?
Yeah, and I'll say this in kind of three parts, perhaps. If you go back about 2 to 3 generations, older people basically lived and died in the household. They were surrounded by family, and so they were part of a community that took them in, kept cared for them. And then we got into this period, probably 1970s, 1980s, where, well, let's build institutions, retirement centers, and then assisted living, and eventually nursing homes. And so all of a sudden, our older folks are disconnected from community to a large extent. And I say that also realizing that many of our retirement communities and assisted living homes do wonderful jobs of trying to keep older folks connected. They really do, but it's a tougher thing. And so the third part is I do think we have to mature into uh, more better ways to connect seniors, not just to themselves, but to the broader community. And I think Encore does that. I think it creates community amongst the singers. I think it creates an opportunity for the singers to learn and grow and perform. And in performing, we're performing many times for younger audiences that uh, can learn from us, just as we're continuing to learn from them. So that's really the key, is to provide more opportunities, whether it be in music or other arts.
Mm.
And that's what I would hope for with Encore, that we become a community that cares for, takes care of each other, and radiates that out into the broader community.
What a beautiful answer. I'm going to take that entire clip that you just shared and use that for marketing because it was such a beautiful way of sharing the evolution of aging and how that ties into Encore. So, last question. If someone is hesitant about trying music later in life, especially in Phoenix, right? Like, what would you say to them, and what advice would you give them?
I think the best advice is give it a try. Come on out. None of us are perfect singers by any means, but we are trying. We really are putting one foot in front of the other, and trying to work together to create beautiful music. And uh, just come and sit and listen to us. Or we've had a number of folks that have come out, and I've just handed them a packet of music and said, "Please sit in if you feel comfortable," and they do it. So just try it.
I have had the pleasure of coming to Phoenix several times, and I can attest it is a welcoming group of singers. They always have good snacks. It's always good stuff. There's just a beautiful spirit about our Encore Crowd Phoenix. So, Chuck, thank you for coming and sharing your story, your Encore journey. And friends, you can check out more about how to join any of our ensembles across the country, including Phoenix, encorecreativity.org. Thanks again, Chuck, for joining me.
Thank you, Joshua. I've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And friends, check us out next time on The Encore Effect.